Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Roy Rosen, and you're listening to the Story Podcast. Today, I have on three amazing, awesome guests that are also performing tonight at Tell Us 360, 7 o'clock. Be sure to get there. Today, these guys all are. We have Keita Ogawa, Bob Lanzetti, Zach Brock. Let's start off with Zach Brock, critically acclaimed as the preeminent improvising violinist of the generation. Zach Brock is an American jazz violinist and Grammy Award-winning member of Snarky Puppy. He has toured, recorded, and performed with artists such as Stanley Clarke, Aaron Goldberg, Wycliffe Gordon, Matt Ulery, Michelle Willis, Banda Magda, Bill Laurance, Sirintip, Phil Markowitz, Martha Redbone, and many more. Zach has also released 8 solo albums and was named Rising Star Violinist of 2013 by Downbeat Magazine. Passionate educator, Zach has coached hundreds of musicians from workshops to conservatories worldwide. Zach remains a perennial coffee fanatic and skateboard enthusiast and currently lives with his wife and daughters in the New York City area. On to Bob Lanzetti. Bob Lanzetti is a Charleston, South Carolina-based professional guitarist, composer, producer, and educator. Bob is an original member of the Grammy Award-winning jazz funk collective Snarky Puppy and has performed in over 40 countries and played in every recorded release to date. In addition to Snarky Puppy, Bob has performed and recorded with many artists including Tommy Sims, Jerry Granelli, Robin Ford, Bocante, Michelle Willis, Becca Stevens, Corey Henry, Ghost Note, Lucy Woodward, Banda Magda, and many more. And then last but certainly not least, we have Keita Ogawa, hailing originally from Sasebo City, Nagasaki, Japan. Keita Ogawa is a 2-time Grammy nominee and award winner and one of the most versatile and sought-after percussionists and drummers in New York City. Since his 2005 arrival in America, Keita has worked with some of the biggest names in modern music, including Yo-Yo Ma, the Assad Brothers, Mary Schneider, Romero Lobambo, Clarice Assad, Jacques Morel Limbaum, Osvaldo Galihov, Les Nubians, Charlie Hunter, Benny Green, Eric Harlan, and the Boston Symphony, Chicago Symphony Orchestra, and more. Currently, he works in several projects, including Snarky Puppy, Bocante, Banda Magda, Cecile McLaurin, Salvant, Charlie Hunter, J Squad, Camila Meza, and the Nectar Orchestra, Clarice Assad, and many more. Guys, how are you doing today?
Good.
Good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm super excited to have you guys on. Let's get right into it. So let's start with you, Keita.
Yeah.
When did the music bug bite you?
Sorry. Could you say again?
When did you start falling in love with music? When did you realize that music was what you wanted to do?
I think I ran middle school. Actually, right before the middle school, and the reason I wanted to play drums was I watched it like a local TV program. They were doing jazz live program at the time, and I watched. I turned on the TV, and at the moment I saw was like drum solo moments, and it was so cool, you know. So I kind of fell into the drumming stuff. So then when I went to the middle school, all my friends started playing like a rock band and stuff. So I kind of raised my hand. Hey, let me do the drums. That's how I got into.
For you, Bob?
Well, my dad plays guitar too, so that was how I first got into it. I think I was about 12 when I started. I was a huge Beatles fan, and my dad had a Beatles book and like the guitar laying around, so I just started kind of like figuring that out that way. That's how I got into it initially, and then I started playing with his band after a couple of years, and at that point I was like, oh my god, being in a band is so fun. So then I was like hooked at that point.
And you, Zach?
I started playing violin as a very young kid, Suzuki violin. I was about 4, I think. My parents are musicians. My dad's a trumpet player and guitarist and vocalist, singer, and my mom is a singer as well. She was a vocal teacher when I was growing up, and so we had a family band, and so I was sort of doing classical music and then learning, just folk music and stuff like that, and different others, different styles. And I don't know. I think that's where my love of improvisation came out of. That was sort of the looseness of being able to take melodies in these other ways and kind of twist them around. And yeah, been playing music a long time.
And well, and you guys have certainly grown since you first started, for sure. Keita, you grew up in Japan. What was it like to perform in a band in Japan? And then what made you decide to come over to the U.S.?
Um, well, I kind of like so I grew up. My city has American base,
Mm.
so U.S. connection is kind of closer to me since since I was kid. So then I started going to the English school when I was 7. So I always going to like American base, some kind of events, Halloween events and other stuff. So I was always like kind of interested coming in U.S. some point. And then when I started the music, there's a couple people recommend me to go study music in the U.S. So after I went to music college in Japan, and I, you know, came here to study more, music.
And at what point did you guys connect with Snarky Puppy and the rest of the band members?
So first time I met Mike Lee around 2009. I was in New York, or I moved to New York after the music college in Boston, and I was touring with different group, and in Ohio, I had a show in Ohio, and my mentor, Jamie Haddad, he's a great percussionist, drummer. He lives in Ohio, and he calls me up. Hey man, we're doing the recording session. Just come over and stop by and play one tune. So I went to the studio, and Mike Lee was playing bass, and that's how I met Mike. And he was like before he moved to New York, and we kind of chat and then exchanged contact, and he gave me Snarky Puppy recording album that he just released at the time. And after he moved New York, and we start playing all the gigs and stuff, and then I met Bob early on, and we start also playing different groups together. And then after that, I met Zach, and during the same time, we did a album called Ground Up in New York. So yeah, that's how I met these guys.
And Bob, as an original member of Snarky Puppy, what was it like to build that up from the ground, essentially?
It was I mean, when Mike first wanted to do it, it was like 2004, I guess, maybe even 2003. And I thought of it as just like, oh, Mike Lee wants to make a record. Okay, cool. And so we went to the studio in like 2004 for the first record. We did a couple rehearsals before that. And then after that, I just kind of felt like that was probably it. I actually moved to New York shortly after that, and didn't know if we would ever do anything again.
Really?
Yeah. And then he called me to make another record, and I was like, oh, so this is like a band, not just like a record for you. So then I went back to Texas, and we made another record, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool, actually. So then we started touring a little bit. So it was like really, slow growth, and just like a snowball just kind of kept rolling, and he kept writing new tunes and kept wanting to do more stuff. And after a little while, it started to, we all started to feel really invested in it. The more time we were playing with the band, and it was, and it kept continuing to grow and move forward. So we got more and more inspired, and wanted to see it through and see where it ended up. So what it ended up turning into, it's something none of us ever expected.
And Zach, when did you start coming into the fray?
I was living in Chicago, and that's where I went to school, and that's where I started my first bands. And the drummer in the second iteration of my first band was, I didn't know this, but a friend of Bob's and Mike's, and had gone to school with them, and was actually very briefly the first drummer in Snarky Puppy. And so at the time I was learning how to book my own little tours around the Midwest and, just getting into stuff like that, trying to make it happen. And this drummer is named John Deidemeyer, by the way. He lives in Chicago. He's incredible musician, incredible drummer. And what happened? Mike reached out to John because Mike was trying to get Snarky Puppy out of just the Dallas area, out of sort of the South. They had an area they were touring, but he was trying to reach out to different places. And so he was talking to his fellow musicians about, hey, do you know anybody in this city? Do you know anybody here or here? And put stuff together like that. And so the deal was we trade on some gigs and say like, oh, you get some contacts, book a gig in Chicago, and you could play a set, and then you could sit in with us. We'll play a set, and do it like that. So that's originally how I met these guys. And then the gig in Chicago, I jumped in the van and we, I don't know, I think we went to Ann Arbor and,
Yeah,
just some various places, Michigan. I was just kind of, on a little thing. We were in the 12-passenger van with the trailer in the back that was always getting a flat tire, playing at bookstores and stuff for 3 people.
Yeah.
And that's how I met them. And of course, that's how I met Keita at the Ground Up recording. I think the first one I played on was called Bring Us the Bright. And that was also, I believe, the first one that Bill Laurance was on.
No, Bill's on the first one.
Oh, he's on the first one? Oh,
But
okay.
he's not on the second one.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that was the first one I was on, and I always remember that too because that was like the first solo I ever took in a Snarky Puppy tune was on 34 Klezmer, which is Bill's tune. And so, yeah.
I don't know if this was before or after, but you have also been shipped off places by the Department of State to play. What was that like?
It's great. I suggest that everybody do it if you believe in world peace and bringing societies together. Use your government for something good by taking the money that they've got, and instead of making bombs and things like that, go out and have cultural exchanges with people from different places. I really just stand behind that. It's a special thing that music can do. You don't have to know how to speak a language where you go. All you need to do is just play music. And, that's just something that I got into. Yeah, actually, well, it came about through some failures. Like the first time I did it, I was trying out with a trio of mine for a thing that at the time was called American Music Abroad. They sort of changed the name every few years. And we got to the final round. And what happens is if you get it, then the State Department pays for a tour and you go around different places and you play. So we got to the final round and then we were cut.
Oh, no.
So we didn't, it was like, well, let's see what happens. I was living in New York. I was playing with Snarky and, other stuff. So it was a bit of a lark. And I was like, okay, well, that's that. Like a day later, I'm, in the drugstore by my apartment and my phone rings and there's a DC number on my phone. I'm like, this is weird. I don't know anybody in DC. I'm waiting in line. I'm bored. I might as well just answer. Answered the phone, and it was somebody at the Department of State saying, hey, I was talking to so-and-so who was at your guys' audition, and they really liked you a lot, and we've got this weird thing. It's kind of last minute, but we're trying to do this thing in the Solomon Islands, which is, if you got to fly to Japan and then Australia, and then you got to chill out for a day, and then you got to fly back into the Pacific Ocean 3 more hours from Australia. It's like really intense to get to. Yeah, long travel day. And yeah, that was a failure that became not so much of a failure. It was like a lifetime adventure. And actually one of the tunes I ended up writing and playing with these guys, and then it's on the new Snarky record, Empire Central, is called Haniara, which is where we were based when we were in the Solomon Islands. Yeah, that's the whole story.
That's awesome. Keita, you have written for Japan's national TV. What was that like? How'd you get that?
Well, I had I was reached. First of all, one of the group it's like a kind of collective Japanese group. They were at the time they were all based in New York, and some of them are already like moved to Japan. But it's called the J Squad. It's just like a jazz quintet, and that one was like formed by one of our national TV company um, in Japan. They want us to make the theme song for that. So we composed the tune, and yeah, so that was like every night they play our I mean the music was playing every night and a national TV for I think it was 3 4 years. And first time I think I was on an album, the one that Snarky won the Grammy, and of course they wanted to kind of take advantage, and they wanted to kind of celebrate. So I was on a TV, and and in a bunch of different national TV program and stuff. And then after that, yeah, after a couple, some other nominations and Grammy win, and every time I get reached to those people, stuff,
Stuff,
you know.
stuff happens.
Yeah,
People
and
get-
then even like last one was like 2020, 2021, when Royal Albert Hall, the live album. Me and they want my wife to be on the TV too. So we both actually we did a Zoom thing interview on a live, and we both kind of talk on the TV and stuff. Yeah,
It's a lot of
that
fun.
yeah, it was fun.
So Bob, being a part of Snarky Puppy, what was it like when you realized that you're being nominated for a Grammy?
Yeah, that was a shock. I mean, we never, like I said before, we never expected anything like that to happen. I mean, it seemed like that doesn't happen to jazz bands. That happens to like just pop groups,
Right.
with singers. So it was a big shock. And then, when we won, I mean, that was even more of a
Right.
shock. We didn't expect to win. We were like, okay, well, we'll go. It'll be nice, to go and check it out. And it's still nice to be nominated. We had already like assumed that we were going to lose. So it was like, it was crazy. It was very exciting, and it just propelled the band forward. I mean, we were able to play, more lucrative gigs with, and get some level of recognition in the industry, which has helped, continue moving forward too. So, yeah, I mean, everybody should try and win a Grammy.
And I remember actually the first one,
Yeah.
Snarky Puppy, the one Family Dinner
Mm.
stuff,
Mhm.
Family Dinner albums, the when they win, even nominated. I remember like nomination announced on November, right?
Mm.
November. So before the November, we toured in the U.S. in the summer, August. We toured in August. I remember we had a conversation in the 15 passenger van about the Grammy thing, and then
Mhm.
remember Mike says like there's no way like the band like us in a small level have gonna be recognized as a
Mhm.
Grammy nomination and a win and stuff, and we were just talked about in the
Mhm.
van, and then a couple months later
Yeah.
Snarky got nominated. I was like, wow,
It's like, wait, got what?
that's crazy.
Nominated for a Grammy?
That's so awesome.
It was crazy, man. It was cool.
So Zach, as a solo or as a touring artist, you have toured with lots of people. What is it like to be a tour violinist? What's all that goes into that?
It's great. I love it. It's everything I think that I probably ever wanted to do. I just love to travel a lot. I love to go to places where, uh, I'm experiencing new things, and I'm disoriented and excited at the same time. I feel my my view of humanity always expands a little bit,
Mm.
and I love that feeling, and to be able to do that with music, which is, I guess, me putting my best foot forward and doing it. I'm just glad to do it. Touring as a violinist, I mean, that's an expansive question. There's a lot of violinists out there that tour, maybe less that play the kind of music that we play. So there's technical considerations and certain things that you have to get together, but it's an easy instrument to fit in an overhead, and it's pretty light, so pretty easy to travel with, and yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Who do you think has been some of your favorite artists to travel with?
Snarky Puppy.
Fair enough.
I mean, I'm not. I mean, I'll just straight up say that. I think we've done it in all kinds of different ways. But the thing that makes this band so special for me is that everybody really has a lot of respect and has a lot of fun with each other at the same time. And, of course, we're human beings and not everything is perfect all the time. And there's hardships and ups and downs. But over the years, it's just everybody is so considerate and so supportive of one another. And it's always the best part of my year, when I get to do that, to play with my friends. They push me, they kick my butt. They're just like, the level of playing is always been very high, and it's going up every year. Every year it's going up. So every year you come back to the tour and you're like, oh man, I have to bring something new. And that's a great situation to be in. Really doesn't let you stagnate with your musicianship, your concept. And also that's one of the things that makes Snarky Puppy to me such a jazz band, even though when you think about jazz music, it doesn't sound at all like what people might normally call jazz.
Right.
But the fact that it's always growing, it's always assimilating new things. It's open to influences from all members of the band, and the way that Mike has set it up to allow people to contribute, to bring their voice. When Bob brings in a tune, and I have to figure out what he was thinking when he wrote this and how I'm going to play on it, but also with these other people. It's like putting together a puzzle. It's like group effort puzzle time, and that's the best traveling, But we do. It's much easier now. That's not to say that travel of any kind is that easy, because you always eventually get kind of worn out. But it's easier now, and as for the other folks that I travel with and continue to do with, I love it too. So it's not like I'm ruined for everything. I mean, right now the stuff that Keita and Bob and I are doing is kind of like going back in time 10 years. This is what we were doing 10 years ago. It's like, well, just because we play in Snarky Puppy doesn't mean that when we do this new project of ours that we're going to be flying to gigs and, have a bus driver and stuff like that. It's like, you got to get back in the minivan and get to the lobby on time and come to the podcast. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
So Bob, I don't know who is the band leader of this, but what is this project that you guys are putting together? What is the goal of this project?
Yes, well, yeah. So all three of us lead it. Really, it's not any one member. And the goal of it,
Cut off one head, another one just springs up.
yeah. I guess the goal of it is just like try and write some new music and challenge ourselves and do a new project. I mean, it started out in the when COVID was all over. It was real rough. Me and Zach were both in New Jersey, so we just started doing things because it was just two people. So we were like,
Right.
we'll minimize the amount of exposure to COVID if it's just two of us. So we were doing some gigs like that, and then at some point, it was a gig where it was a little bit bigger of a gig. We needed a drummer. So we were like, well, if Keita's available, he can play like a cool percussion setup instead of just like a regular drum set. And so then we did that, and we were like, I think this is a band. It was really fun. It felt really good. It was interesting without having bass. I was playing mostly acoustic guitar, this is the only band I really do that with. So then we just decided to try and like keep it going. So we did another tour after that, and now we're doing this, and we're gonna do this recording in a few days. We're making a record in a few days, So yeah, so we'll see what happens after that happens.
And mentioning Keita and his lots of drums, what is some of the most unique drums that you have used, that you have played? What's the most difficult, maybe, styles that you know?
Mm,
He builds a lot of his own drums.
Really?
yeah. I mean, kind of modified and
A
stuff.
human skull.
Yeah. You know what? You wanna actually that's kind of exists. There's some kind of drums they use with human skull or it's human bones or or no human skin.
Oh.
Yeah. I think I saw whatever but yeah
Yeah.
yeah I never seen it
Say,
I
you
saw-
about a size 4?
I just saw it in the picture, but
That's crazy.
Unique drums. I don't know. You know what? Because I've seen a lot of different different type of the drums and instruments all over the place, and and then I think depends on the people see it. And some people say, wow, what is this drum? Never seen it. And some people to unique to some people, and then it's kind of regular to some people.
Right.
But I don't know. It's hard to choose actually. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I kind of like everything. You know. you know. Yeah. Anything that really kind of touched to my my heart. Like when you play, if you go when I travel and see some new instrument and when you play it and it really talks to me, I just like fell in love, and then kind of like bring into my collection or setup or to and the style, I mean, it's everything is hard.
Yeah.
I mean, if you kind of like really get into deeper to the all kind of traditional music, it's like everything is hard. If you're not, I mean, these people playing like for whole life and stuff. So but that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm kind of like you know get the every kind of best part of each
It makes
stuff
it
and
together.
cooking together and stuff.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, as a group, what are some of the funniest stories that you have had, or something where something completely went wrong or something went completely right in the funniest way? Zach, want to start?
I don't know. Does somebody have something on the top of their minds that I might have to think of it?
I have to think of one that's PG rated too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I mean, I'll say that we laugh a lot. I mean, part of getting along on the road and kind of maintaining your sense of equilibrium and self and health, and when you're exhausted, we find stuff to laugh about. There's always funny stuff. And also there's things that are not funny at the time that are actually extremely anger invoking
Right.
that then later are very funny.
That's true. Yeah.
Those are always actually the funniest.
Those are pretty funny.
Like when
usually.
something so extreme happens that you can't keep your cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought of one. So this is the same tour, I think, where we started playing with Keita, but Bob and I had played at this place in Syracuse, New York, and we were staying at this old hotel in Syracuse, this old historic hotel, right down the street from the venue. But it was like, even with the hotel parking lot, it was a kind of place where you're not going to leave anything in the car, especially not
kinda
any
sketchy.
any of your
Right.
gear or anything like that. So we brought everything. We didn't have a whole ton, but we had our suitcases, we had our amps. A lot of the places, when we play with Snarky and bigger venues, usually there's backline, or if you're playing in New York City, there's always backline. But
Right.
as soon as you go out on the road, you have to have your amp. You've got all your gear. So we had all that stuff, and we checked into the hotel, and then the next day we found out that and we were on the top floor, which is like the 8th floor, and in the middle of the night, I guess the elevator broke, and we were trying to get out of it, and it's not really that funny, except it was so extreme that we made a video of it, because it's an old hotel, so the staircases are really tight, and we had to make so many trips
Yeah.
up these
Big
up and down these 8 flights with gear, and it was ridiculous. So it was like we felt like total tools. We're like, wow, I can't believe it's actually come to this. And at the time, it was both hilarious and anger producing.
Lesson learned if you're booking
I don't
a
know.
hotel out in the middle of nowhere, first floor.
What's another?
Yeah.
You guys have I'm forgetting. My brain is
This
mush
band
right now.
hasn't really toured enough to have a ton of funny stories.
Right. We just kind of.
But it's kind of new. But when you were talking about when you said anger invoking, it kind of reminded me of the bus that Snarky Puppy used to have.
Oh yeah.
We had an '86 Bluebird school bus that we used to tour in. Super old, and would break down all the time. It was probably like 1 mile to a gallon of gas.
Oh wow.
I mean, that's an exaggeration, but it was
Right, yeah.
horrible gas mileage. That was just a money pit, and that thing broke down all the time. And I just remember this one time it broke down. I had AAA for my car, and so I called AAA when we broke down, and I gave them all the information, and they were like, "So what's your vehicle, sir?" And I was like, "An '86 Bluebird school bus." And the lady on the phone just started laughing. She was like, "Your membership doesn't cover that vehicle." And I was like, "Oh, really?" She was like, "Yeah, that's like $1,000 a month for that membership."
Whoa.
So I was like, "Oh, okay." So then we had to find another way to get it fixed. That just popped into my head. That was kind of funny even at the time, actually.
That bus is a story magnet.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, that bus also never turned off.
Oh what?
Like it didn't turn off. Like it would, like you turn the key and then take it out, and it would still be running. Just like something in the engine would get stuck. So then even when you turned it off, it would still run. So like I think we were going to Canada or something, and like the customs agent asked us to turn the bus off. We were like, we can't. He was like, what? And then we showed him. We turned it off and took the key out, and we were like, and he was like, okay.
Wow.
That was like probably the end. That was the final voyage of that bus.
Probably.
It met its demise on a Halloween night in Toronto after playing the show. Folks broke into the bus, stole things off of it, which was horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
That was my guitar.
decided to, that's terrible. That was like the worst maybe. And then, those buses, you open up the engine case inside, right? Or the part of it is inside the bus, right? Where you can
Or
access-
maybe it was underneath, like
Mhm.
the flaps on the side, like luggage bin, but it was like engine.
Okay. Well, anyway, not only did they break into the bus and steal stuff, but they just decided to destroy the engine. They just thought it would be cool to, break in, steal stuff, and then just, I don't know what they did. Took a crowbar to the engine and just destroyed it. So we were stuck and had a paying gig and everything the next day in Detroit, right?
Yeah, or
somewhere in Michigan.
Cleveland or something.
And it was a Sunday in Canada. Couldn't get the bus fixed. Had to cancel the gig.
Yeah, there was one guy who knew how to fix them in Toronto, and he was out of town or something.
Yeah, and they got it going well enough that we got down, and then I think that was it. It was retired after that.
It still actually is around. Someone was just telling me about it.
You could have it.
Yeah.
Get it for the podcast.
I don't remember who bought it, but it still exists somewhere.
Wow.
I think
That's incredible.
Maybe in Austin or something. I don't even know where it is now.
Wow.
So, Keita, you have been working with incredible, some of the top names, at least in the classical world, Yo-Yo Ma, Desire Brothers. What has it been like to work with them?
It was fun. The first, actually, working with Yo-Yo Ma was one of my highest, gig situation. I was still in right before I graduate, and so there's a composer from Argentinian composer Osvaldo Gorijov. He wrote a piece for a cello concerto with Yo-Yo and Boston Symphony Orchestra. So my mentor Jamie had that. He was one of the percussion player, and there's another percussion player, Ciro Batista. He's the Brazilian legend percussionist. So Ciro couldn't make it. So Jamie actually called me to do this as a sub first. So that was the first time I played with orchestra ever.
Wow.
And then first time play with like classical venue. First time play with like conductor. And I didn't even know who the yo-yoma was at that moment. I was like kind of embarrassing, but like so after I got Jamie asked me to do it, I was like, yeah, yo-yoma sounds familiar, you know. I think he plays some kind of strings instruments, you know. And then I asked, I told my girlfriend at the time. She was like, "Who's Yo-Yo Man?" And you don't know? You better check it out, you know. So
Dude, he's on Sesame Street.
Yeah, I was like, yeah. So
Was it?
anyway, I did the research and I practiced and piece and stuff, and it was like a half an hour piece, and it was a 3 days concerts, you know. And I did a concert, and Yo-Yo was like, we did a rehearsal day before, something like that, and then I was like 24, 3, and it's like just for random Asian percussion player, young students, and came and but he was like super cool. He treat me like I mean just same musicianship and stuff, and he was really respect and super cool. So I didn't really get nervous actually,
Oh.
So it was really cool. I was like, so me, two percussion, accordion, and cello was one of the soloists, and then with orchestra. So we play, and the show was successful. And the last day, the yo-yo was like, hey, I thought he was joking, but he was just like, okay, let's switch instruments and go on a stage. So he was just like, I thought he was joking, but like, so the Boston Symphony Hall orchestra was just standby on the stage, and somehow Jamie already walked into the stage by himself, and then me and conductor and yo-yo and accordion player was on off the stage, and we were just like switching instruments. Yo-yo gave his cello to me, and so I was holding yo-yo's cello, and like yo-yo, he was grabbing the accordion, and the accordion player he was wearing yo-yo's glass, and we all were kind of walked in, on this stage. But the funny thing was, like, I'm an Asian guy and then holding the cello, and I was first, like, I was walking to the stage, everybody was just clapping and stuff,
Not realizing
And
you're-
then they thought I'm a yo-yoma, and then they kind of like realized, oh, something wrong, and then, then they start laughing and stuff, and then we kind of bow together, and then just, switch to the instruments back and stop playing. But it was kind of like really, he was so cool,
That's
Then
cool,
after-
man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Then after that, I got, called again this project, and I, played like several years for this project and different times and stuff.
What
and,
instrument were you playing? So,
bunch
like
of
a variety of things.
Fiber
Well,
slap.
yeah, exactly. Viber slap and yeah, exactly. Wind chime.
A genie.
Yeah. But yeah, all this stuff and yeah. So yeah, it was kind of cool. And also same thing. South Brothers, like they were also the Jamie calls me because he couldn't do it, and then I was subbing. But it was funny. Jamie was like, "Okay, I couldn't make it, but you have to call this guy, my former student, and then once you hire him, you're not gonna call me again." That's what Jamie told it, and then they didn't actually. They it just like become like become my like a Brazilian family, and then we start playing together. And then they actually didn't call Jamie back after that. But Jamie knew it actually. Jamie knew it. I'd be the perfect fit for the project, and then he's kind of super generous guy, and really
James
caring
great.
person. So he really actually gave me so much opportunity to meet a great people.
Jamie's great.
So we're kind of rounding out our time here. One last thing, I want to hear one piece of advice that you would like to give upcoming starting musicians. Zach, you want to start?
Sure. Be kind to other people.
Mm.
That's we were teaching and playing with some students this morning, and it's always one of the things that comes up in my mind speaking to young musicians, people getting into it. You have to study your instrument, you have to learn the ins and outs of whatever music you're playing as best that you can, and that is the bedrock of what you're doing. But at the same time, the way that you treat other people and the way that you relate to other people is really the bedrock of your career, if you want to have a career in music. I've definitely been in situations over the years, having played music for so long, where, my attitude back when I was younger may have been funny on some sort of a thing and playing with some people, and then, meet one of these people years later and they're in this position of great influence and power. And I think back to, what my impression on them must have been. And I'm filled with regret and dread and shame. No, just kidding. No. But I mean, in all actuality, it makes the music better. Everyone is able to be more comfortable, be themselves. It raises the level of the music, and you have more fun.
You're gonna get way more opportunities with being kind than not.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. So yeah, I mean, I'll give a piece of practical advice, which is just, take care of the easy stuff, like be on time, be prepared, like learn the music, and just make sure you know all the details of all of what the gig requires. I mean, that's kind of like the easy things, because I mean, music is hard.
Yeah.
And it's like, it takes a long time and to get it all together, and it's a lifetime, and there's great players who like shoot themselves in the foot because they don't have the simple things together. That I think, it seems like anybody can be on time to something,
Yeah.
So, but not everybody can play this or that. So, you might as well take care of the easy stuff right out the gate, and then
worry about the hard stuff.
Yeah, and then the music stuff's going to take your whole life anyway.
Right. So might as well.
So yeah, if you can do that, you might have an edge over some people that are not prepared or whatnot.
Keita?
Yeah, I think similar to the Bob, but just be ready anytime, and don't miss the moment.
It's very true. Do not miss the moment. Well, you guys are performing tonight at Tillis 360 at 7 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And be sure to come out there. This has been the Story Podcast. I got to let these guys go and get set up for that. Thank you so much for coming on, and I hope you guys have had a wonderful time.
Yeah, thanks so
you
much
for
for having
having
us.
Well, with that said, you can find us on CoreyRosenProductions.com, The Story Podcast, everywhere. The links will be in the descriptions. I'm going to get them out of here. We'll see you guys later. Bye.
Bye.